Mr. Mayor, thank you for sparing me a bit of time in the Mayor's Parlour here.
Welcome, Richard.
Now, you've had a couple of weeks to settle in, so how does it feel to be the 798th Mayor of Bath?
I still feel this is a great honour. The people of Bath, the city of Bath, have given me this great honour. I'm so grateful. And what I want to do is sow some permanent perennial seeds in my mayor's year. So whilst I'm busy with mayor's activities, I have made myself busy with regard to my theme for the mayor's year, which is education is empowerment. So I'm going to make things happen, or I would like to make things happen.
We're going to get on to that, but I want to take you back to the young Bharat. Your family hailed from India, yes, but you were actually born on the African continent. Am I right?
I was. So the monsoon winds, literally the monsoon winds and a boat, blew my parents, my grandfather, my father, and my mother on a small wooden boat to East Africa. You sat on a boat, literally. I spoke to my grandfather. He said, you sit on a boat and the monsoon winds will blow you. And if the monsoon winds don't operate as they should, well, you die at sea, full stop. As simple as that.
Were they refugees?
No. So remember, India was a British colony, as well as East Africa, which was also a British colony. So they wanted Indian tradesmen and women to come and work, open up Africa, which is what my parents did. So I was born in Africa, further to my parents, sitting on a boat and arriving in Africa.
What did your father do for a living?
He was a motor mechanic. He was a motor mechanic both in Nairobi and in Leicester, England.
And I take it, you being the son and heir, he was hoping that you would take up his profession and carry on the name?
Well, I was his youngest son, so the eldest son would have followed dad, which my brother did. Me being the youngest, you're often superfluous, so to speak. And whilst I was trained to be a tool boy, I couldn't hack the cold and the heavy lifting of engines and gearboxes, which was my job. And I said to myself, I'm going to find an escape route out of this. And I plotted my escape.
What were your feelings then? Did you have any idea what you would have rather have done for a living at that point?
Anything but being a mechanic, because being a mechanic was really hard work. Leicester, we didn't have a garage as such. We used to repair cars on the street, so to speak. It was hard, it was cold, it was wet. And but I always had an inkling towards the sciences. So I always used to sort of be the inquisitive person saying, I wonder how spark plugs work. I wonder how that internal combustion engine works. So I was that inquisitive person. So I always knew I'll end up somewhere doing something science.
We've skipped a bit of traveling here. So at some point, your father, your family decided to leave Africa and come to this country. Why was that?
So in 1971, Idi Amin in Uganda,
yes,
overnight decided that he was going to expel all British subjects, Indians, British subjects, not Ugandan subjects. And he did that in 71. So we felt what can happen in Uganda can also happen in Kenya. So we started that work on get yourselves packed up and leave as soon as you can. So I think the catalyst was what happened in 71, and therefore in 74, 3 years later, we left Kenya.
Did you have family in Leicester? I mean, why did your father choose that part of the UK?
A lot of Asians had gone from the Ugandan expulsion to Leicester. So Leicester was what you would call a comfort zone. You would have a network. And as a sort of refugee, we were not refugees, but as a recent vulnerable immigrant,
Yeah.
you need that network.
So you, at the age of 14, went to school in Leicester.
I did. I did.
Not a particularly nice experience?
No, it wasn't, because see, at age 14, the school teachers decided that it was too late to get us to do the O levels and the CSCs, as it was called.
Yeah.
So the school teachers said, well, you have to come to school. So come to school, but you don't have to be in an exam class. So we were in a category called non-exam class. We attended school, but that was it. And I knew, because the education standards in Kenya are very good.
Yeah.
And I had been told in Kenya that without education, you will be lost. So whilst I attended school and wasn't formally taught to pass exams, I started to teach myself.
In a way, what happened there sort of lit a fire within you, this sort of gritted determination that you were going to do this. You were telling me when you very kindly agreed for me to come in and talk to you that you spent a lot of time in Leicester Library.
I did.
What were you doing in there?
Well, remember, when you're a recent immigrant, you haven't got rooms, you know, in the house. So the only rooms we have is in the library. And I used to sneak into Leicester University Library and the Leicester Public Library. Public library is of course open to everyone.
Yep.
But at night, when you really want to study till 10 p.m., the only libraries that are open are Leicester University libraries. So I used to walk all the way from my home, a couple of miles, to Leicester University Library and study there till 10 p.m. and then walk back home and then study again. I burnt the midnight oil. I really did.
Weren't you also telling me that you were going backwards and forwards to the public library under different names?
It's a needs must. It had to be done because I was determined to not leave school without any qualifications, because I knew if that happened, I was finished. I would be a mechanic. I would be finished is the word. Absolutely finished.
So you were borrowing books one day, going in under a different name the next, and borrowing some more.
Yes, indeed. Because you see, that's
wonderful.
It's a lot of subjects.
Yeah.
And you need a lot of books for a lot of subjects.
Yeah.
And I was determined, I need to get out of this. This is a trap.
Am I right in thinking a family member actually paid for you to privately sit your GCEs?
Yes, indeed. So, of course, in Indian households, you can't really approach your dad as well as you can approach your granddad. So I went to granddad and said, Granddad, I need to pay these fees as a private candidate for these O-levels. And granddad was a very smart person without questions, gave me the money, which I gave to the school, for which we entered the exams.
He saw something in you, didn't he?
Yes, he did. Granddad was more engaged, whereas father was just busy making a living.
At what point during your education, going from GCEs to A-levels to a university degree, at what point did you decide that medicine was the thing for you?
It was a decision by default. It goes like this. So when I was doing those O-levels, lots of them, I did 10. I sort of, shall we say, overtaught myself. Having overtaught yourself, you knew that you could handle 4 A-levels. So I did maths, physics, chemistry, biology at A-levels, which is unusual because most people usually do 3.
Yeah.
And then I think this is plotting an escape, Richard. It really is. So it goes something like this. Most university degrees are 3 years. Medical school is 5 years.
Yeah.
And it is difficult. And it is difficult to get in. And it is a bigger challenge. So I saw it as I'm good with all those A-levels. which degree can I do which will incorporate all those A levels and which gives me a longer escape from Leicester medicine. And that is how by it wasn't I want to be a doctor bit. It was more a plotting your escape bit.
But at some point, you decided you actually liked being a doctor. I mean,
yes.
You eventually became a general practitioner, a GP.
I did, yes. So
was that the start of you being a people person? Because you are that's the way you come across, that you're a people person.
So I think that is the way your life has taught you to be a people person. Because remember, in Africa, we lived in poverty. I had seen what happens to poor people. I had seen how my dad was bullied by people who had money. In other words, they would bully my dad with writing letters for him, for accepting his post for him, because post doesn't come to your house, it goes to some place. So I noticed all that bullying, and I knew that what we have to do is educate ourselves and stop being bullied. And you also become sensitive to other people.
Yeah.
So how do you become a people's person? Through life experiences.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
And empowerment.
Yes.
One of your favorite words,
yes.
isn't it?
Yes.
But you weren't happy to just stay a GP. I mean, the qualifications started mounting after that. So where were you off to? What life were you plotting?
Well, it's all randomness, really, Richard, but it worked well. And I, at my University of Exeter, where I teach now, often tell my medical students that you need variety in your career. So I became a GP, but as a GP, and I was a fully qualified MRC GP, meaning I have passed external validation exams.
Member of the Royal College of
General Practitioners.
General Practitioners.
And so, for example, I noticed when I was practicing as a GP that I knew very little about psychiatry, dermatology, respiratory medicine, because in South Wales, well, we have all those depression, anxieties and things. We have skin conditions everywhere, but we also had a lot of respiratory conditions from the miner's lungs.
You did your medical training in Cardiff.
Yeah. So what I did was I said, well, I don't know. So if I don't know, why don't I go and learn about it? So I went and did psychiatry. I went and did dermatology. I went and did respiratory medicine, by which time you've already done quite a lot more than the average GP. And then one lovely day, I was doing pediatrics in Haverfordwest with the Bush Hospital. And the pediatrician came to me and he said, Bharat, we love having you here. You're good. You're a safe pair of hands, but you're not doing your career any good just by being a pediatrics registrar here. Why don't you go and do public health medicine? And I said, okay, here we go. So I went to St. George's Hospital Medical School, London, and did public health medicine training, and then branched out into infectious disease control.
A lovely chiming clock. We'll let it finish chiming. Another achievement for you, and by golly, by the time this terrible pandemic arrived, you were very well placed and a very personable person to be a spokesperson at that time, to advise people and I'm sure reassure people at a terrible time, a time that my generation, our generation, had never experienced. I mean, I can only think back to something like the Black Death.
Yes.
What are your feelings thinking back to that time? Because you became a well-known face.
So there was a lot of fear in the world, and it was a fear of the unknown.
Yeah.
And I took it upon myself. Nobody asked me to do anything, but I clearly remember sitting at home saying to myself, I am going to write about these things. And I started to write for the Bath Chronicle. You know, what does a pandemic mean? What does this hyperimmune reaction mean, whereby people then start falling like flies, etc.? And then the media picked up that there is this person in Bath who is talking in simple terms about pandemics and infectious diseases, etc. And then, you know, it concertinas, one media picks you up and the other, and the other, and the other. And before you knew it, I was talking to the world's media. How they got hold of my number and contact details, I have no idea. They're very good. But from my taking the initiative of starting to write for the Bath Chronicle, I just started to write and sent it to them and said, here, I think you might want to publish this. That's
Good
all.
copy. I would have published it too.
Yes, and then the rest happened.
A man of the people again.
Yes.
Amongst your many talents, I'm sure I read somewhere that you actually produced tabletop exercises simulating things like biological disasters. Bearing in mind all that's happened and your experience and your knowledge on the subject, should we be prepared for this maybe to happen again?
Of course, we should always be prepared. We have to be. And what happens with these tabletop exercises, because I have first-hand experience of them, is the high and the mighty of the organizations from various government departments often come to these exercises to be seen. But do they really, truly engage and go home and say, these were the black spots, and therefore we must address these missing items and make good what the simulation has shown? And this was clearly demonstrated. So exercise sickness, for example, was one of those viruses are circulating. What are you going to do? And you know, the things were, the NHS capacity is below par. We haven't got enough ventilators. We haven't got enough staff. We haven't got enough PPE. All of those things were identified in exercise sickness. None of them were attended to.
I've got to be careful because you are wearing a chain, and I know we've got to stay away from politics. But I want to move on to another environmental issue. I mean, a virus is something affecting the environment. You talk a lot about living in harmony with the environment.
Yes.
You know, better health, meaning a better informed population. Education is the main empowerment. We're back to that word again. Do you think people do, social media, Google, do you think people are more aware of their health, their well-being, about living in harmony with the environment, the world around them?
I think there's a subset of people who are, of course, well in tune. And then there is a large subset of people who are just barely trying to make a living, survive. And those are the forgotten people. And they are just surviving. They haven't got that reflective moment of, do I have a park? Can I go to a park? Can I go for a walk? Can I take in better health, healthy foods? They are just surviving. And if I were a politician in charge, I would say, I want to focus on the forgotten. It's not that, how do I put it? We need to focus on the entire population, but there is a large number of people who would like to live in harmony and in peace and tranquility, who just cannot.
Yeah. Yes, maybe some sections of society have the luxury of being able to do that.
Yes.
But again, I've got to be careful I don't steer you into politics. Education, information, a powerful tool.
Yes.
And you as mayor have set that as your theme. We've finally come back to it, that you are setting out to try and show people how important education is. And not just for children at school, but lifelong learning.
All age groups. Yes.
Why is it so important?
So we talked about some people not being able to live in harmony, so I said, basically surviving. And my analysis is that if you are well educated, then you are also liberated. And that liberation then gives you a better life. You're less likely to be intimidated. You're more likely to be able to stand up for yourself. You're more likely to be able to stand up for others. And because you are aware of what is happening in your environment, you're likely to be more engaged to say, no, don't cut down all these trees. Don't build a concrete jungle. Don't have those houses by noisy roads, etc. But remember, a lot of people who are poorly educated are also manipulated, and they're also unaware of what is being done to them under the guise of we're doing it for you. So if you have that education, those critical powers of analysis, it's for your own good. But also take it another step, another way. So education is also recreation. So if you are educated about plants, rivers, mountains, birds, bees, butterflies, your outlook improves.
Yeah.
If you are interested in art, drawings, making things, that's also education.
Mm-hmm.
All of those things,
yes,
actually liberate you.
Yeah, I can see all of that. You're going to spend a good part of your year shaking hands, being nice to people, being interested in various events. What can you do, and what time will you have to do it to actually spread this message of education and empowerment within Bath?
So there is a lot of goodwill, I have to say, which is really good to hear. I have no powers. I'm only a ceremonial mayor.
Yep.
But I have the goodwill.
Yep. And some good contacts.
Well, I've been making those contacts. I have been purposefully knocking on the doors.
Yep.
So I have knocked on the doors of Brisley, which is the Bath Royal Literary Scientific Institute. They are wonderful.
On Queen Square.
In Queen Square.
Yep.
I have knocked on the door of Bath University, Bath Spa University, Noland. And what I want to do is knock on a few more doors and bring them all together and say, I know you people are doing a lot.
Yep.
Could we do a little bit more? And the little bit more that I really want them to do is this. You are already making good the people who've already crossed the line and joined your club.
Yep.
Meaning entered Nolands, entered university, entered further education college.
Yes.
What about those people who never crossed the line?
Yep.
So I want to focus on those people who could have crossed the line, but were scared of the word university, further education, study, whatever. So it's there I will focus, and I will say to all the gathered, what can we do? Like I said in my mayor's speech to my nephew, I said to him, your engineering department is amazing. Why are you waiting for the schools to invite you to come and show your stuff to them? They may never come. Why don't you kick the doors open and say, I am the professor of engineering. I want to come to your school. Give me 3 hours.
That's the way to do it.
Yes. Yes.
Now, public service, did you come to Bath 2019?
We came 1992.
Oh, 1992. Did you have any thought then of becoming a councillor?
No, not at all. I was very busy as a doctor, and it was never on my horizons, never ever.
What did it?
It was Brexit.
Okay.
So further to Brexit happening, I felt very disappointed, and I felt I ought to sort of be a voice for, look, the United Kingdom is going to hurt itself further to Brexit, and let me see what I can do to say we must reverse or at least reintegrate with our closest neighbors, Europe.
Okay. That was your feelings then, of course, and you became a councillor. they re-elected you in Combe Down. They
Yes.
must like you.
Yeah.
But of course, now you're a mayor, you can't talk about things like that anymore. Elizabeth's going to kill me, you see, if I lead you down a political road. So you enjoy being a councillor. You enjoy being a married man. You and your lovely wife, Alison, have 2 children.
Yes.
Can I, without being rude and with the greatest of respect, how did it go down with your family choosing a bride who wasn't Indian?
With great difficulty.
Oh, right. That was...
yes, with great difficulty, Richard. And one of the reasons why I have young children is we were scared stiff of being dumped into the middle of the Pacific by both sides of the family.
Oh, you had it from both sides?
Both sides. Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
So what happened? You know, we were procrastinating like, well, we can't get married because we will be executed. And there was one, and I still remember this, I will always remember it. There was one conversation at the home in Bath. Alison was working as a dentist here in Bath. And she said, well, if we can't get married, I have to let you go because you have a large network of Indians.
Yes.
And family, your nephews and nieces and your circle. And I have nothing to lose because I have no network as such. I've only got one sister. But if they chuck you into the middle of the Pacific, so to speak, I'll still sail that boat with you. So that conversation I still remember. And I said, well, we're going to get chucked into the middle of the Pacific. I know that. But she said she will sail the boat with me, even if we are chucked in the middle of the Pacific, so to speak. I said, well, that's a good enough reason, isn't it, to get married? And so the rebellious Alison and Bharat decided we will get married, and we invited our parents to our wedding.
And did they come?
They came. So the invitation was, we gave them the invite.
Yeah.
And you see, when you give them the invite in a, the wedding invitation,
yes,
it's not up for negotiation because the invite goes, Bharat and Alison invite you to their wedding, March the 30th, 2002, at Highclere Castle. Be there. What? It's not up for negotiation, is it?
No, well, honor, you have to accept it. And I take it that everything is fine and dandy now.
Well, we will never know.
Okay, well, we won't go into that. But a fruitful marriage. And now your children, are they going into medicine? Are you saying to them you should be doing this?
No, never. Because
No.
I think on the subject of education, it is important to be a free spirit as well. So my children are brought up as free spirits, as you wish, whatever takes your fancy. So my daughter is studying geography at Liverpool University, and she's just been sent by her university to do an extra year in New Zealand. So she departed yesterday. And my son is still doing his A-levels at Ralph Allen School.
Well, that's terrific. A lovely family, a proud husband and father, a superb mayor. I wish you every success this year.
Thank you, Richard.
It's a shame in a way you hadn't waited 2 years, because then you could have said, I'm the 800th. It's a nice round number, but I'm sure, Bharat, they can't be absolutely sure how many mayors there've been.
Exactly so,
There's
Richard.
certainly been a lot of them.
Yes, exactly so. What I want to do is, return the honor. I have been honored, and I say to myself, I will return that honor plus, plus, plus as the mayor of Bath.
Well, I think you're going to make a great first citizen of this city. Bharat, thank you.
Thank you, Richard.
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. That's lovely.